From Tennessee, Mr. Kustoff, the sponsor of the legislation, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today in support of the National Strategy for Combating the Financing of Transnational Criminal Organizations Act of 2017. This bipartisan legislation requires the President, working along with the Treasury Secretary, to develop a national strategy to combat the financial networks of transactional criminal organizations. For too long, transactional criminal organizations, which are also known as TCOs, have used illicit business ventures such as money laundering, cybercrime, and the trafficking of humans, drugs, and endangered species to grow their wealth. Many of these groups bring violence to our communities and to our local municipalities. These criminal organizations aim to maximize their profits and offer careless disregard for the lives displaced or ruined in their wake. Just last year, on February 9th, President Trump issued Executive Order 13773 on enforcing federal law with respect to transactional criminal organizations and preventing international trafficking, which I think demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to combat TCOs to promote domestic and international security. The executive order recognizes the TCOs and subsidiary organizations, which are mostly transnational drug cartels, have spread through the country and continue to threaten our national security interest. We've seen a rise in the scourge of heroin and opioid medications as these drugs find their ways into our communities. As we know, drug cartels peddle these narcotics and have brought a wave of addiction and crime that places a heavy burden on our local, state, and federal law enforcement. Each year, $900 billion of illicit capital flows through our worldwide financial systems, which demonstrates the magnitude of these criminal industries. By giving law enforcement and our intelligence community the tools necessary to fight against these illicit organizations, we can track down money channels and cut them off at the source. Mr. Chairman, this legislation would be the first to require an assessment of such a TCO strategy, akin to the National Strategy for Combating Terrorism and Other Illicit Financing that was signed into law in August of last year. I do want to thank Representative Sinema for her work, along with Chairman Pierce and my colleagues on the Terrorism and Illicit Financing Subcommittee for their hard work on this bill. I urge all my colleagues to support this critical legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady.